The night was cold. Too cold. Snow fell gently from the sky, covering the broken buildings with white silence. Fires no longer burned. People were gone. Only ruins remained and death. Inside one of the abandoned buildings, a human man sat alone. His name was Daniel. His leg was injured. He had no radio. No help. Just a small fire and a few old food packs. He was a soldier. But now he was just trying to survive. Outside, footsteps. Soft, careful. Daniel picked up his gun. His body froze. He waited. The door creaked open. A girl stepped inside. Not human, alien. She looked weak. Her skin was pale blue, her eyes large and silver. Her body was wrapped in torn cloth. Her hands shook. She was cold, starving. Daniel did not shoot. She looked at him, then at the fire, then back at him. Her voice was low. Shaky. I can warm your bed. If you give me food. Daniel was silent. She looked away, ashamed. Just one meal. I won't stay. I don't want to die in the snow. Daniel slowly lowered his gun. You don't have to do that, he said. He opened a small food pack and tossed it to her. The girl caught it. Her hands trembled. She looked at the pack like it was treasure. She sat near the fire, far from him. Opened the food. Ate fast but quiet. Like a hungry animal afraid the food might vanish. Daniel watched her. What's your name? She didn't answer. Where are your people? Still no answer. Are you alone? She looked at him. Her eyes were sharp. Everyone I knew is dead. Silence. You can call me Snow, she whispered. Daniel nodded. I'm Daniel. The fire cracked. The wind howled outside. Snow slowly relaxed. The warmth of the fire and the food in her stomach made her eyelids heavy. She leaned back against the wall. Why didn't you ask for what I offered? She asked quietly. Daniel looked at her. Because you didn't mean it. She said nothing, but for the first time she gave a small nod. Time passed. Daniel threw more wood into the fire. Snow was asleep now, her arms wrapped around her knees. She was breathing slow. Daniel didn't trust her. But he didn't hate her either. She looked young, maybe 18, maybe less. Life had been hard on her. War had stolen her home, her people, her childhood. And now she was offering her body for food. Daniel felt anger. Not at her, at the world. He cleaned his gun slowly, watching the fire. His body ached. His leg hurt. Suddenly, movement. Snow gasped. She sat up. Her eyes wide with fear. Someone's coming, she whispered. Daniel stood up fast. He grabbed his gun. Turned off the fire. Outside, a red light passed through the cracks in the wall. A drone. Enemy machine. Armed. Searching for heat. Life. Daniel pulled Snow behind. A cabinet. They both held their breath. The drone hovered outside the door. Red light. Scanned the walls. Beep, beep. Then silence. The drone flew away. Snow was shaking. Daniel looked at her. You saved us. She looked down. You gave me food. They sat in silence for a long time. Finally Daniel spoke. You don't have to go. Not yet. It's not safe out there. Snow looked at him, surprised. You want me to stay? For now, Daniel said. Until it's safe. Snow nodded, slowly. Okay. That night, they didn't talk much. But for the first time in many nights, both of them slept without fear. Not because the war was over, but because, for the first time, they were not alone. She didn't dream. Aliens didn't dream like humans. At least, that's what Snow believed. But that night, wrapped in a blanket near a weak fire, she saw flashes. Her sister's smile, her mother's hands, her people running. Fire in the sky. Then, silence. She woke up fast, gasping. Her body stiff, her eyes wide. Daniel was already awake. Sitting near the window, watching the gray morning sky. He didn't look back at her, just spoke quietly. Bad dream? Snow pulled the blanket tighter. No, just memories. Daniel glanced at her. She was still afraid. Not of him, but of everything. He handed her a metal cup with warm water. Boiled it. Should be clean. She took it without a word. They sat in silence again, outside. Wind howled like a wounded beast. Later, Daniel searched the building for supplies. He found an old radio, broken, no signal. He sighed. Snow followed him silently. Her footsteps made no sound. You always walk like a ghost? He asked. She blinked. I was trained to hide. Soldier? No, she said. Slave. Daniel didn't ask more. She sat down on the floor, picked up a small broken mirror. Her reflection looked like someone else. Hollow eyes, dirty face, cracked lips. She turned the mirror away. Why did you help me? Daniel didn't look up. Because I could. Most humans wouldn't. I'm not most humans. Snow studied him for a moment. You don't act like a killer, but you are one. So are you, he replied. She didn't deny it. As the day passed, they shared another meal, dry, tasteless bars made for survival, not flavor. Snow ate carefully now, not like the first time. She was watching him too. Studying. Daniel noticed. You think I'm weak? I think you're tired, she said. But not weak. Then she added, almost too quietly to hear, you're different. At night, the fire burned again. Snow sat closer than before, but still not beside him. She didn't speak unless he asked, do you have a real name? Daniel asked, not anymore. What did they call you before? She looked into the fire. Names are for people who belong somewhere. I don't. Then I'll call you Snow, he said. She tilted her head. Why Snow? You're quiet, cold, but still alive. She didn't smile, but her eyes softened. Snow is fine. Suddenly, the silence broke. A loud cracking sound outside. They both stood up fast. Daniel held his gun. Snow pulled a small knife from her belt. Thin, sharp, almost invisible. Someone's out there, she whispered. They moved together, quiet as shadows. Through the window, they saw two figures, not human, not like Snow either. Scavengers, wild, desperate survivors who killed anything that moved. Snow gripped Daniel's arm. They hunt for tech and meat. Meat? He asked. She nodded. Alive or dead? Doesn't matter. Daniel cursed under his breath. They hid behind a fallen wall. The scavengers entered the building next door, searching, breaking things, laughing. We have to leave, Daniel whispered. Snow looked at his injured leg. You can't run far. Then we'll walk, quietly. They waited until the scavengers moved deeper into the ruins. Then, step by step, they slipped into the cold night. They walked for hours. The sky turned dark. The air got colder. Daniel stumbled once. Snow helped him up. You should leave me, he said. You'll survive alone. You fed me, she said. I don't forget that. They found an old tunnel, hidden beneath the rubble. Inside, it was dry. Safe for now, they sat down. Daniel breathed heavily. Snow looked at him. You saved me twice now, she said. Why? Because someone has to be human, he said, even in a war. She stared at him for a long time. Maybe you are. The last real human, Daniel laughed softly. If I am, the galaxy is in trouble. Snow didn't laugh. But she reached into her torn coat and pulled out something small, a tiny carved stone. A child's toy. She placed it between them. My sister made this before she died. Daniel picked it up gently. It's beautiful. It's all I have left, she said. And now, I think I'll stay. Just a little longer. The first sound was not loud. It was soft, like a cough from the sky. But Daniel knew what it meant. A drone. A hunter. The sound came again, closer now. A low mechanical hum mixed with cold wind. Inside the tunnel, Daniel and Snow were sitting in silence. He was fixing his bandage. She was sharpening her knife with a piece of metal. Both stopped moving at the same time. Both heard it. Snow leaned forward, eyes narrowed. It found us. Daniel didn't ask how she knew. He could feel it too, that cold pressure in the air. Like death breathing on their necks. He picked up his gun, checked the battery. Can we run? Snow shook her head. Too late. She turned off the small heater near them. The tunnel got colder fast. No heat, no sound, no light. They pressed their backs to the wall. The only light came from a small crack above. Through it, they saw it. The drone, black metal, red scanning light. Floating silently like a ghost dot, it paused above their hiding spot. Snow grabbed Daniel's hand. He didn't pull away. They both stopped, breathing. The red light scanned the rocks, then moved on. Daniel exhaled. Close, Snow looked at him. Too close. That night, they didn't sleep. They moved through broken tunnels, slow, careful, silent. Each step was dangerous. The walls were old. Some parts had collapsed. Once. A section gave way under Daniel's foot. He slipped, but before he could fall, Snow grabbed him, stronger than she looked. Don't fall, she whispered. I'm not ready to bury you yet. Daniel smiled a little. Is that a joke? Maybe. Hours passed. They found a small chamber, maybe an old maintenance room. It was dry, hidden, safe enough for a break. Snow opened a ration pack, broke it in half, gave him the bigger piece. You should eat more, she said. You're the one who limps. You noticed that, huh? I notice everything. He ate. She watched. Then finally he asked, why did you come back for me? That first night, you could have run. But you warned me. Why? Snow didn't answer right away. Then she said, because you gave me food without asking for anything. That shouldn't be rare. It is. She looked at the floor. On my planet, mercy was weakness. Kindness was a lie. But you were kind, real. Daniel looked at her quietly. You're not what I expected either. What did you expect? A threat, a monster. And now? He smiled. Now I see someone who saved my life. Later they heard footsteps. Real ones, not drones, not machines. People. Snow froze. Scavengers. Daniel stood, a little too fast. His leg buckled. He winced. Snow helped him lean against the wall. Stay quiet, she whispered. The door to the tunnel shook. A voice outside. We saw movement. Open up. Another voice. Could be meat, could be tech. Either way, open it. Snow's eyes darkened. She reached into her boot, pulled out a sharp, curved blade. If they break through, we fight. We don't stand a chance, Daniel whispered. Then we make it costly. The door creaked open a little. Two shadows stepped in. Snow didn't wait. She moved like lightning, silent and fast. One scavenger gasped. Then gurgled. Blood hit the floor. The second turned to run, but Daniel shot once. Just once. The body dropped. Silence returned. Snow stood over the bodies, breathing hard, not proud, not scared, just tired. Daniel sat down, holding his leg. I thought you weren't a soldier. I'm not, she said, but I learned to survive. She looked at him. And I'm not leaving you behind. They cleaned the area, took supplies from the dead. One had a map, old, torn, but still readable. Daniel pointed to a symbol. There, that's an old human station, might still have power. Maybe a signal. Snow nodded. Then we go, together. Daniel smiled weakly. You sure you want to stick with a limping human? She looked at him seriously. You're the only thing in this world that doesn't lie. They left the tunnel before dawn. The world outside was still broken. But now, they were not running alone. They were hunted. But they were hunted together. The cold didn't feel like weather anymore. It felt like a living thing, crawling under their skin. whispering in their bones, waiting for them to stop moving. So it could take them forever. Snow walked ahead, her thin frame barely visible in the whiteout storm. Behind her, Daniel limped, each step slower than the last. The world was ice and silence. No sun. No mercy. Just cold. They had left the tunnels hours ago. The broken city was behind them now. In front, nothing but frozen wasteland and ruined metal bones of old ships buried in snow. Daniel's foot slipped. He fell, hard. Snow turned back fast. Rushed to him. "You're bleeding again," she said, Daniel's lips returning blue. His voice was weak. "We need shelter. We need heat," she replied. "Or you'll die before we find it." They found an old wreck, half a ship, split open by crash in time. But inside, it was dry. Metal walls blocked the wind. Still no heat. But better than dying outside. Snow dragged Daniel inside. He was shaking now. Badly. She knelt beside him, took off his coat, his boots. His fingers were stiff. His skin pale. "You should have told me sooner," she whispered. "Didn't want to slow you down," Daniel said, eyes half shut. "You're human. You always slow me down." She wasn't angry, just scared. She pulled out a heat stone, tiny, weak, nearly dead. Not enough to warm a room. Maybe just enough to keep one person alive. "Lie down," she said. "What are you doing?" "What I promised, back when I first knocked on your door." Daniel tried to speak, but his teeth were chattering too. Snow lay beside him, pressed her body against his. Thin alien skin against bruised human muscle. She wrapped his arms around her and pulled a blanket over both of them. "Don't get the wrong idea," she whispered. "This is just warmth." For survival, Daniel gave a faint smile. Understood. "If you die after I came this far," she added, "I'll be angry." He closed his eyes. "I'll try not to disappoint you." Hours passed. Snow didn't sleep. She watched him breathe. Watched the color return to his lips. She felt his heartbeat slow, not from fear, but from calm. Her own body was cold. But she didn't move. He had saved her with food. Now she was giving warmth. And even trade. Or was it more? Morning came, pale and gray. Daniel opened his eyes slowly. He was alive. Barely. Snow was already sitting up, knife in hand, scanning the room. "You made it," she said. "Thanks to you. You owe me now. Add it to the list." They both smiled, small, tired, real. Later, they checked supplies. One ration left, one heat stone, fully dead, and a long journey ahead. "We're not going to make it if your leg gets worse," Snow said. "There's a comms tower nearby. A few miles east, if it works. Big if. Still our best shot." She looked at the snow-covered door. Then at him. "I'll scout it. You rest." "No, you'll slow me down. And you'll die without backup." They stared at each other. Neither one blinked. Then Snow sighed. "Fine, we go together. But if I die because of you, I'll haunt you. Deal?" Before they left, Snow placed the small carved stone from her sister back into her pocket. Daniel noticed. "What's that really mean to you?" She looked at it for a long time. "It means I can still care, even after everything." "That's rare. So are you." He didn't respond. Just looked away, hiding a strange warmth rising in his chest, the kind that had nothing to do with body heat. As they stepped out into the frozen wasteland once more, the cold bit at their skin. Immediately, but this time, they were closer, not just in steps. In trust. In quiet hope. And somewhere in the snow-covered sky, a drone activated again, red light blinking. They weren't safe yet, not even close, but they were not alone. Snow didn't scream when they took her. She didn't have time. One blink and Daniel was gone. Bending to check a broken comms panel. Next blink, she was gone. A shadow moved behind her. A needle hissed. Her knees hit the snow before she could call his name. Silence returned. Only Her footprints remained, fading fast beneath the falling snow. Daniel stood up, holding a broken wire. Snow? Silence. He turned. Snow? Still silence. And then, the trail. Boot marks, drags in the snow, and something else. Claw tracks, not human, not drones, something worse. Daniel's breath caught in his throat. No. He followed the tracks. Fast, limping, falling once, twice, didn't stop. Coldn, single quotes T. The wind grew louder. The world blurred. But the trail was clear. It led to a ravine, deep and dark. A metal door half buried in the ground. Daniel had seen one before. An old alien bunker. He raised his gun and went in. Inside, the walls were carved stone mixed with tech. Blue lights flickered. Old systems, half alive. He moved slow, careful. Then he heard it. Her voice. Faint. Struggling. Let me go. He followed it. Around a corner, down rusted stairs. Until he found her. Snow was on her knees, hands tied, eyes open, burning with hate. Surrounding her were 3 alien scavengers, her own kind. They wore cracked armor, sharp weapons. Wild eyes. One of them leaned in. He's not one of us. You chose a human. You betrayed your blood. Snow spat at his feet. He treated me like a person. You're the traitors. The leader raised his hand to strike her, and froze. A gun clicked behind him. Touch her, Daniel said, and I'll burn this whole place down. Every head turned. Daniel stood in the doorway. Bloody, shaking, alive. Snow's eyes widened. Daniel. The scavenger leader laughed. So this is your human? He stepped forward. You really think you can scare us? You can't even walk straight. Daniel didn't blink. You've got 3 seconds. To what? Die. Daniel didn't wait. One shot. The leader dropped, hit in the shoulder. Panic. Another shot. Another scream. Snow rolled sideways as the third attacker lunged for her. Daniel fired again. Clean hit. Silence returned. 3 bodies on the floor, one barely breathing. Daniel lowered the gun. Snow looked at him. Breathing hard. You came for. You're surprised? I didn't think I mattered that much. Daniel limped forward. Cut her ropes. You were wrong. They moved back through the tunnels. Fast as they could. Outside, the snow hadn't stopped. But this time, Snow held Daniel's arm, guided him, protected him. He had saved her. Now she walked like a shield between him and the world. Later, by a small fire under a wrecked engine, she spoke. The one who caught me, he was my cousin. Daniel looked at her. And you still fought him? He would have killed you, or worse. She stared into the flames. I don't belong to them anymore. Who do you belong to now? She didn't answer, but she reached out, took his hand, held it. I'm figuring it out. The fire crackled. Above them. The sky turned darker, storm coming again, but neither of them moved. They were tired, hurt, wanted. But now, they were something more than survivors. They were choosing each other, even in a broken world, even when it hurt. Somewhere nearby, a faint signal beeped. The comms tower was close now, a chance, a hope, but hope always came with a price, and someone, or something, was already watching them from the snow. There was no fire this time. No warmth. Only darkness and breath. Slow, cold, close. Snow sat beside Daniel, her knees pulled to her chest, her eyes fixed on the broken comms tower glowing faintly in the distance. It blinked once every few seconds, like a dying star gasping in space. Daniel was asleep, or maybe unconscious. His body was too cold. Too tired. Too human. She touched his face, gently. Still warm, but only just. Don't you dare leave me now, she whispered. Not after everything. Not after he came for her. Not after he killed his way through her own people just to pull her out of that pit. She looked at the tower again. Old tech, ancient, buried in snow and rust, but it still blinked. Maybe, just maybe, it could still call someone. She stood up, quiet, careful. Then she whispered to him, "I'll come back, I promise." He didn't respond. Snow stepped into the storm alone. Wind screamed, biting at her skin, pulling at her thin coat. But she didn't stop. Every step toward the tower felt like walking into a grave, but she walked anyway, because this wasn't about survival anymore. It was about him. Inside the tower, everything was dead. Wires like vines. Dust on every screen. But the core was still humming, barely. She placed her hands on the controls, fingers shaking. She didn't know human tech well, but she had watched Daniel enough to guess. She pressed buttons. Waited. Static. More buttons. Beep. Signal found. She leaned in close. "This is Snow," she said in broken human words. "With a human. Named Daniel, injured. Please, help." Silence. Then, a light blinked green. Message sent. She ran back, fell beside Daniel. Tore open a ration. Fed him water. Drop by drop. "Hold on. Just a little longer." He opened one eye. "You left, came back, knew you would." He smiled, just a little. "We're a good team." "We are," she whispered. "Did you send the message?" "Yes. Think they'll come?" Snow looked at the sky. The stars were hidden by clouds. "I don't know." Daniel turned his head slowly. "Do you regret it? Staying with me?" She didn't speak. She moved closer instead. Laid beside him again, like she had in the wreck. Her voice was soft. "I promised warmth for food, I remember. But you gave me more." "Like what?" "A reason to wake up." The storm raged outside, but inside their broken shelter, there was something stronger than heat keeping them alive now. Later Daniel spoke again. His voice was weak. "Do you think, after the war?" "You and me?" "Yes," she said, before he could finish. "You don't even know what I was going to say." "I know." He smiled again, then closed his eyes. Snow watched him for a long time, afraid. He might stop breathing, afraid of what came next. Then a sound. Low hum in the distance. Snow sat up fast. She climbed to the roof of the shelter, looked out. A ship. Human. Markings. Coming closer. Snow didn't shout. She didn't cry. She just held onto the metal rail and whispered, "He's going to live." As the ship landed, floodlights lit up the snow. Soldiers ran out. One of them called, "We got your message. Where's the survivor?" Snow pointed to the shelter. They rushed in. Daniel was lifted into a medical bed. Snow followed behind, silent. As they flew into the sky, away from the war-torn land, Daniel opened his eyes again. He looked at her. "You kept your promise." She held his hand. "And I always will." But in the corner of her mind, deep buried, was a truth she hadn't told him. A secret under her skin. A symbol on her neck, and it was starting to glow. The stars looked different from the ship. Daniel sat near the window, wrapped in a thin hospital blanket, watching space crawl by. He had always imagined peace would feel loud, like cheering, fireworks or drums. But it was quiet. Almost too quiet. Behind him, the medical team moved around. They spoke in low voices, checking scans, typing notes. But Daniel wasn't listening. His eyes kept drifting back to her. To Snow. She stood across the room, hands folded behind her back, staring at her own reflection in the glass. Not looking at him, not smiling, not speaking. And something inside Daniel began to ache. He stood slowly, his legs still hurt. The cold hadn't left his bones yet. But he crossed the room anyway. "You're quiet," he said softly. Snow didn't turn. "I'm thinking." "About what?" She hesitated. "About what happens next." Daniel tilted his head. "You're coming with me, right?" Silence. "Snow?" Finally, she looked at him. And for the first time since they met, she looked afraid. Not of dying. Not of hunger, but of being known. She reached up, pulled back her collar. Daniel's eyes narrowed. There on her neck was a glowing mark. Faint, blue. shaped like a circle inside a triangle, pulsing slowly with light. He stepped back, confused. What is that? It's not a tattoo. She said, it's not art. She took a deep breath. It's a tag. A tracker, part of me. Tracker for what? I wasn't just a slave, Daniel. Her voice was flat. I was a weapon. She turned away again, ashamed. My people created me to infiltrate, learn, and destroy from within. Half organic, half machine. I was built to mimic emotion, to gain trust. Daniel stared at her. The girl who had saved his life, slept beside him in the cold, cried in the dark, shared stories, pain, silence. So, he whispered, everything you said, everything we shared, it wasn't real. Her voice cracked. It wasn't supposed to be, but it was. She turned, finally meeting his eyes, tears on her cheeks. Yes, it became real, too real. He stepped closer. Why didn't you tell me? Because I was scared, not of you, of myself, of what I might become if I stayed too close. Daniel took her hand, held it. You became more than they built you to be. But I'm still part machine. So what? He smiled gently. Most of me is metal now. You've seen my leg. Snow gave a soft, tearful laugh. You're serious? He pulled her close. You said you were a weapon. Maybe, but you're also the reason I'm alive. That's human enough for me. The ship shook gently. A voice came through the intercom, approaching orbital station. Prepare for docking. Snow stepped back, wiped her face. They won't want me there. Then I'll tell them I need you. They'll scan me. They'll know. Then I'll stand in front of you. Why? Daniel's voice was quiet, but firm. Because you're not just warmth. Not just survival. You're my second chance. You're what's left of the good in this war. The door opened. Two armed guards waited, scanners ready. Snow looked down. Daniel held her hand tighter. If you walk with me now, he said, you walk as my equal, not my shadow, not my weapon, my choice. She nodded. Then let's go. They walked forward together. The scanners beeped. Lights flashed. But the guards didn't raise their weapons. One looked confused. Sir, her tag's active but neutral. No threat signature. Daniel smiled. Told you. She's done fighting. Snow looked at him, her voice soft. No, I'm not done. I'm just choosing a better side. They stepped into the light. For the first time, not running, not hiding. Not alone. Just human and almost human, walking into a world where war had ended. And something better was about to begin.